You can't have, the red guy with his butt exactly dead center in the camera.
I'm all grown up.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is a legendary animator and director. He's likely drawn your favorite Hanna-Barbera character at least once and may hold the record for the longest running cartoon with a recurring butt-naked character. Ladies and gentlemen, David Feiss.
Hey, guys.
Is it David Feiss or David Feiss? Because
Feiss.
I've heard you... It is Feiss. Okay.
Yeah.
And there was a Cartoon Network interview from a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm David Feiss, and I created Cow and Chicken.
Yeah, I've changed the pronunciation, because my whole family basically, it is Feiss, but when I was a kid growing up, we pronounced it Feiss, but it's Feiss.
I totally feel you, man. I think that's a common experience these days. Man, I'm so excited to talk to you today. You created one of our favorite cartoons that's had a lasting impact. All Grown Up Psych is geared towards 90s kids, millennials, and it's one of the things that on all my social platforms gets talked about a lot. So we got a lot of questions for you today.
Cool.
Let's take it back a little bit. You joined Hanna-Barbera in 1978 after you graduated high school because your aunt had an acquaintance that knew someone there.
Yeah.
When you pulled up, you brought your 8mm projector and you projected your movie, which was an animated version of Maxwell's Silver Hammer by the Beatles.
Yes.
I want to ask a few questions. Number one, what was their reaction to you busting out your little projector? Was that normal at the time, or was that like, what is this kid doing right now?
It was, what is this kid doing right now? It was not normal. I walked in, the projectors were big too. It was heavy, and I didn't know what a portfolio was. I didn't know what they wanted to see. So I made this movie, and they said, okay, just let's see it. So, and also when you would thread the 8mm film, sometimes the ratchets inside would eat the film. So it was kind of like,
oh no,
is it going to eat this? Is it going to actually play? It was like kind of touch and go, but it played, and it played the film, which is like a 3.5-minute film. Because that's what the song is.
Yeah.
And the recruiter who saw it, he says, okay, stop, put it back to the beginning. And he went and got this guy named Iwo Takamoto.
Yeah.
Iwo Takamoto was legendary at Hanna-Barbera. He created designed most of the characters back in the 60s, including Scooby-Doo.
Sleeping Beauty.
He worked on Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, he was at Disney. Yeah, his story is also very fascinating, Iwo. But he brought Iwo in, and Iwo watched it, and he says, hire him. It was just like that. I couldn't believe it. I thought they were going to say, go to our school or do this. And
yeah, I mean, that's such an amazing turn of events. So when they brought him in, were you aware of who he was?
I was not.
I figured, because at that point, like, we didn't have the internet for you to kind of just like know who everyone is.
Right. Yeah. I knew a few names because I was an animation freak. As a kid, and I would look at credits, and I knew who Hanna-Barbera was. I knew Chuck Jones from Warner Brothers and all those.
Yeah.
But yeah, Iwo, I didn't know. But
Wow.
I did get to know and really enjoyed knowing him.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. As a 19-year-old, you didn't know what a legendary moment that really was.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Why did you choose Maxwell Silverhammer to animate your first movie to? Because I mean, the song is about like a homicidal student.
Right.
Is that what the animation was about?
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, first of all, I'm a Beatles fan. And
Yeah.
I love the Beatles, and that song kind of jumped out as a visual song. I mean, it was totally visual. I could see it in my mind. And up until that point, every film I had made was actually like a silent movie. It was 8mm, like my parents' old film camera.
Yeah.
No sound with it. And so I figured I got out my game. If I'm going to get into the business, I got to do a sound film. So that was actually my first sound, taking a music and putting animation to it.
Right. Wow. Do you still have it?
I do, yeah.
Is it uploaded anywhere?
It's not.
Okay. I would love to see it someday. I guess the main question, though, is has Paul McCartney ever seen it?
I don't believe so. I don't know how he would have ever seen it because it's not on any social media. It's not out there.
All right, we've got to make that happen. Maybe there's
That would be awesome.
maybe there's a whole Maxwell Silverhammer movie waiting to be made from that,
Yeah, that would be something, yeah.
You started at Hanna-Barbera, and your journey took you to Canada, to Spain, to different places working at subcontracting studios for Hanna-Barbera. Is that correct?
That's all. Yep, that's true.
Okay, so you worked on Scooby-Doo, The Flintstones, The Jetsons, Once Upon a Forest, Alf, Ren and Stimpy. Your credits are crazy. At what point did you personally start creating and coming up with your own ideas? And at what point was it your goal to have your own cartoon on the air that, okay, this is my project. I'm writing, I'm directing, and I'm not just animating or storyboarding for someone else?
Well, that's a great question. And because, I was working in the industry, it never even occurred to me that I could do my own characters, because it was, at the time, it was studios would come up with these shows. It was like Hanna-Barbera, they internally would create for the networks, like Scooby-Doo or whatever. And it wasn't until really, John Cristofalusi and Ren and Stimpy that it was a friend of mine, and it was like, you can do this, you can, and that kind of opened the floodgates for everybody. And so I was, known to Hanna-Barbera when Cartoon Network was forming, and the calls went out. They were looking for original content. I had coincidentally created like a book. Like a kid's book. I don't know if it was Cow and Chicken. It was about 3 weeks before I heard that this new network was looking for new ideas. So I pitched this idea.
So I guess John Kay was sort of the person that kind of put the seed in your head that, hey, I could expand and have my own thing.
And not just me, and for everyone, and for the networks. It was like creator-driven creator content.
Wow.
You don't have to be a studio. It's like the energy of the person.
Yeah. And at the time when you were storyboarding and animating, would you, for our audience, just break down the difference between those two things?
Storyboarding and animating?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as an animator, that's what you're doing. You're actually taking, you get shots, you get scenes, and you're physically drawing on paper, making them move, talk, and whatever. And storyboarding, you're creating from a script. Like, there's no visual whatsoever except some model sheets. You have a story. You have to actually plan it out shot by shot, like the blueprints of an entire movie.
Right. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit to what you mentioned. One day you tell Cow and Chicken as a bedtime story to your daughter. Yeah. And she liked it so much that you had the idea that you would write it as a children's book. So right there, when you wrote it as a children's book, was your goal at that time to get it published, or were you just writing it just for your kids? Just
for my kids, yeah. It was just to get it out there and get it down, because she did like it. And it was, I don't think it would have went anywhere if that 3 weeks later I hadn't got that call that said looking for new content. And I brought other ideas too. But the Cow and Chicken is the one that jumped out at the person.
Right. Was the specific story that you told your daughter and the one that you wrote in the book, was it about any specific Cow and Chicken adventure that made it to the show?
No. In fact, the dynamic was different. I had them as like boyfriend, girlfriend.
Oh, wow. That is very different.
Yeah, they grew up together, kindergarten together, every class are together. One grade they were not together, but then the rest of the time, all the way through high school and high school prom and all that. But then Chicken goes to Hollywood and gets into the movies and leaves her in her small town, and she works at a pizza parlor and never calls her. And then he returns to the hometown and has a flat tire. She sees that there's this chicken struggling with this tire, and she helps him out. And then he said, "You look familiar." He goes, "You look familiar." And then they got back together, and they decided they'd never part after that. But then when they liked the idea, then I really had to okay, if this is going to be a series, I thought of the dynamic of brother and sister as being completely stupid and silly, and the red guy came later.
Right. Okay, we're going to talk about him. So your friend Larry Huber calls you and says Cartoon Network is doing this What a Cartoon show.
Yeah.
So I've read that in addition to Cow and Chicken, you submitted 2 other ideas. Is that true?
I had a number of ideas. Because when I got the meeting, I knew Cow and Chicken was the one I really had the most stuff with. It was like 25 pages of color, watercolor, pen and ink. I had some other ideas because I thought, I needed more ideas.
Yeah.
So other things. I don't quite remember what they were.
Okay, that was going to be my question. If you remembered what they were.
One was called the time toilet.
The time toilet?
Toilet that you can travel through time.
That's amazing. That needs to be a show right now. It's like, imagine it's a DeLorean, but it's a toilet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
How did you decide on the plot for No Smoking? Like, you decided this is going to be my first episode. Was that based on any real life experiences, or how did that come to you?
No, it's just the dynamic of home life. And I just started boarding the opening. When they said, "Hey, we want can you do a storyboard? We like Cow and Chicken. And so as I started boarding, that's when I realized they have to be brother and sister. And then I did the whole opening that's in No Smoking. And then I was thinking, you know what? It's missing something. It's not just their conflict in the home life.
Yeah.
There needed to be something else. And that's when the devil came in.
Nice. Okay. There's a lot on the internet about that episode that shortly after it gets banned, and I'm curious, was there a particular conversation that executives at Cartoon Network had with you after it aired and said like, hey, this got cigarettes in it, so we're not going to show it again? Did they say that parents complained because they greenlit it? They saw it and they greenlit it, they said we can air it. So what happened afterward and what was the conversation?
Yeah, was it actually banned? I didn't know that.
Maybe not. The internet says so, but I wasn't positive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't believe it was because I think it still aired, but maybe maybe not. Maybe it was, but the only thing they did say is you can't call him the devil because in that pilot is hello, it's me, the devil.
Right.
Hello, it's me, the devil. I stand for all that is bad. Also, I'm naked.
And so you can't say that. And I said, fine, so you come up with the red guy, and then the idea that every episode he had a different name that.
Yeah.
Refer to the fact he wasn't wearing pants.
That was the best running gag on the show, I thought. So No Smoking is on What a Cartoon Show in 95, and Cow and Chicken doesn't premiere as a series until 97.
Yeah.
Were you immediately sort of picked up for series and it just took 2 years to develop, or was there a bit of time? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it wasn't 2 years, actually. It did premiere, it was July 97, you're right. And I animated, I started in 1994. When I met them for the first time, and then boarded that and had it ready and recorded the pilot like October of 94, and it took 10 months after it was recorded. It took me 10 months because I was working at MGM at that point at night or during the day, and at night I was animating Cow and Chicken, the pilot.
Wow.
So I would work all day and then animate. And I animated myself. A lot of the What a cartoons were not animated by the creator. Because I was an animator and I really wanted to do it myself. Right. I was allowed that time. So it took 10 months just to do the pilot.
Yeah.
And then when it was done, that's when they sent it out for testing. And then they actually, sent it to like focus groups, and one in Dallas and Chicago and New York. And so that's the end of 95 by that point.
Yeah.
So like in the beginning of 96, they said, okay, we want to do a series right after the focus group. So that year, 96 was made, doing this first original 13 half hours.
Gotcha.
So that took that year. That's why it premiered in 97. There was no real gap, actually.
Okay. During the focus group time, were you sort of sitting on pins and needles like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen, if people are going to like it or not. Will I get a show? Yeah,
for sure. And it went badly. Because, Cartoon Network, Hanna-Barbera, they were all happy. We liked it. This is silly and this is fun.
Yeah.
Focus groups. And the first one was in Dallas, Texas. And so I flew to Texas and was behind that one-way glass, so they couldn't see you. But you could see.
Interrogation style.
Yeah. And then they ran other cartoons too, but it was like, it didn't test well there. It was like the kids were like really like, I don't think it's appropriate that a cow has, 4 teats, or it was 4 wieners. Remember that line?
Get out of here.
Yeah. But other, cartoons didn't test well either that first day, like Powerpuff Girls. They didn't like it either there.
Right.
But fortunately, the next night was in Chicago, and then I think the next night was in New York, and I didn't go to those. I was too depressed from the first.
Oh, no.
No. But I remember being behind the glass saying, oh, no. But it tested well. And then internally, they also tested it, and they liked it. And then they had that contest, too, on Cartoon Network, where the audience got to vote for their favorite new cartoon.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And Johnny Bravo was like that one, and Cow and Chicken was number 2, and Dexter's Laboratory was number 3.
Wow.
And that's how they chose those 3. And then right after was Powerpuff Girls.
Brilliant.
Those first 3 were the first brand new cartoon series on Cartoon Network.
Wow. Okay, that's dope. I'm glad it tested well in New York because I'm a born and raised New Yorker, so I'm glad we all had good taste.
Right on.
Speaking of band episodes, I want to ask about Buffalo Gals.
We're the Buffalo Gals! Oh, the Buffalo Gals! A motorcycle riding gang that randomly bursts into people's homes and chews on their carpets.
I've heard you say on Talking Tunes that since that time you felt that maybe the jokes were perhaps inappropriate. But at that time, did you get any pushback from Cartoon Network before it went on air? And even if not, afterward, was there a conversation had with you about it?
Yes, and they claimed that they didn't have any idea. It was about that. But the thing was, I mean, if you watch it, it was like the red guy raises a red flag in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
And the dialogue was the dialogue. It was always there, but they were upset. I felt bad.
So that's the most famous or infamous cow and chicken incident or episode. Are there any others where Cartoon Network came to you before something aired and they were like, "You're gonna have to change this"?
There were like not entire episodes, but like moments like that you can't have, the red guy with his butt exactly dead center in the camera or
Okay,
same thing with, go ahead.
We can only get a profile of it.
Yes, yeah, 3/4. It's okay, yeah.
That's amazing. That's almost like the old school Mickey Mouse rule, except with red guy's ass.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Charlie Adler. You said that he came into audition and he was the best of all three of the characters that he auditioned for and ended up playing. Did you ask him to read for all three, or did everyone that come in read for all three?
Not everyone. A lot of people did. They would, like Candy Milo, who became his mom.
Yeah.
She read for chicken, she read for cow, and she read for mom. And she was awesome as mom. But when Charlie came in, Charlie was like, he read for everybody. And, he did chicken, he did dad, he did everything.
Yeah.
I remember that the devil character that he came up with, it was like, I'd never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
And that particular, the way the first thing he ever did when he just, "Hello, it's me, the devil." I actually used that very first take in the pilot.
Wow.
It was so fresh. It was so unique and different. It was like, yeah, take one was in. Yeah.
Wow. One take wonder, Charlie Adler.
Yeah. But I did, it was a bit of like coaxing the studio to say, hey, this one guy can do all these main characters.
I heard you say that you had to cite Mel Blanc as an example.
Yes.
For what reason did Cartoon Network have for not wanting one guy to do them all?
I don't think it was Cartoon Network. I think it was mostly internal at Hanna-Barbera. They just thought,
I see. Okay.
It was like, there's so many talented people. We can like have a variety.
Yeah.
But when they heard it all cut together, they agreed. They said, yes, this is it.
That's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing with Charlie, he's so talented that he doesn't have to do like this one character and stay in the character the whole time. He does it talking to each other. He'll have Cal ask a question and Chicken answers, and then the red guy comes in and just like
he's unlocked every part of his brain that we have not. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Did he find those voices completely on his own, or did you provide any guidance before he started of what you were kind of looking for?
He came up with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yes, he's amazing.
I was just recently watching some clips from Talking Tunes again, and I saw him do red guy orgasming. It was fucking incredible.
I've seen that, yeah.
I'd like to do, it's been on my mind, the red
serious.
guy having
Please.
an orgasm.
Okay.
Pop culture moment for sure.
Yeah.
Who wrote the theme song? Was it you?
I wrote the lyrics.
You wrote Mama Had a Chicken, Mama Had a Cow?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's one of the like crazy lasting legacies. I think anytime that you bring up cow and chicken in conversation, like at least me with my peers, that's the first thing that you think of, because that theme song sticks right in your head.
Yeah. I originally had it turned around. Instead of cow and chicken, it was Mama had a chicken, or Mama had a cow. That's the way it is now. But then I had it as Mama had a cow, Mama had chicken. Dad was proud he was not second. And then I got pushback on that, so that's why I switched it to I didn't care how.
What was the pushback? Would they just think it wasn't catchy?
No, the word sickened was in there.
Okay. I love it. So I want to get into Red Guy a little bit. So Red Guy came to you in a dream, and he said an iconic line. Would you say it for us?
Yeah, hello, it's me, the devil. I stand for all that is bad. Also, I'm naked. That's for real. I did, and I woke up and I actually drew it out, kind of boarded out that little section.
Wow. And when you drew it out that day, that's pretty much what he looks like now?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Pear shape.
Wow.
No ears, horns, big nose.
What was the inspiration for his personality? Because I can't think of another cartoon character like him at all.
Zero Mostel and the producers, like big and, in your face.
You can do it, Bloom. You're a wizard. Step 4, we open on Broadway. And before you can stay, step 5, we close on Broadway. Step 6, we take our $1 million and we fly to Rio de Janeiro. Rio.
I don't know. It was, again, it was kind of like, I knew I needed this kind of a chaos character in this, this thing with Cow and Chicken. And what was like the most extreme opposite of what was going on in this home life was the devil. And the whole thing about smoking is like doing something bad and going to hell. In fact, that was the working title while I did it for those 10 months was Cow and Chicken Go to Hell. And then they were saying, well, that's fine working title, but you have to change it.
Yeah.
That's why I changed it to No Smoking.
So speaking of that, so obviously in the pilot, Red Guy's motivation is to get Chicken down to hell. Is that still, or do you consider that still to be his ultimate goal throughout the show, or is it just simply to stir up trouble?
My mind, it was always him just looking for a friend. He was like really lonely.
Wow.
He just like, I think I had episodes where he just wanted to play. He just,
yeah. That's deep, man. Wow. Yeah, I do remember a very particular moment where he like knocks on the door and he's like, "Can Cow come out to play?" And the mom is like,
"That's the name of the episode."
Yeah. I wouldn't let him play with you.
Yeah, he goes, "I wouldn't play with you if you were the last man on earth." And he's like,
Can Cow come out and play?
Oh, I wouldn't let Cow come out and play unless you were the last man on earth. Bye-bye.
And that was another thing. His personality is like, it was like big effort for a very small payoff. So he's like, he kept put everybody in the world into one trailer. I think that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
And I'm all packed in there. And then he went to play with her and still didn't want to play.
That's deep, man. What happened to Cerberus? How come Cerberus was never seen again after No Smoking?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember if there was anything in particular. I think it was the whole idea of it was hell. Like they didn't want to go back to hell. And so that was, kind of a one-off.
Okay, gotcha. Just because Cerberus was in hell and didn't have a place outside. Okay, that makes sense.
Cerberus is my assistant. He's got 3 hands. Right, Cerberus? Evilness is what I like, right?
This is a burning question. Are there multiple Red Guys? Because we see him on screen with himself quite a few times. There's even a part where he has Red Guy children. And is that just part of his magic abilities? Like he can duplicate himself for whatever purposes he desires? Or are there legitimately multiple Red Guys?
No, it was just supposed to be one.
Okay.
But I think there was I remember doing like a promo or something about he's with his dad. And there was like a dad Red Guy. And then he was a little boy and how he was, yeah.
Okay, dope. Yeah, like some of those scenes, it reminds me of like Genie in Aladdin when he'll just duplicate himself just to do, little gags.
No, in the title, there's multiple ones, but that was just to show like just different characters that he does.
Gotcha. I'm remembering a very particular one where his camp counselor character pulls up and speaks to a character that he's playing, which must have been, I guess, just like a little magical thing.
Was that the one where they were military school for Cow?
Yes, is that guy? Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. But he was like a drill sergeant.
Correct, drill sergeant. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was supposed to be him doing everything. It's just like he could just, yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Red Guy only got one real standalone episode, which was Factory Follies.
Yeah.
What was the reason that you didn't want to explore more standalone Red Guy episodes?
I don't know, actually. That particular one was an idea from the producer, Vince Davis. He came up with that. He said, Red Guy should have his own. So that was what that story was about. And again, it's about being lonely.
Yeah, it is. Because no one comes to a surprise birthday party.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The guests will be barging in any second. Barge on in, guests.
Okay, so weenies were a big thing in the show, along with pork butts and taters and milk. What was the idea behind weenies being so popular? Were you just a huge fan of hot dogs?
No, I just thought it's a funny word, and it's a funny visual and silly. And the pork butt actually came from, at the time I was doing the Cow and Chicken pilot. I was living in Northern California, and I shared a studio with my cousin, who was a comic artist named Sam Keith, who created the Max. Do you remember the Max?
Yeah.
MTV TV series of the big thing with Image Comics.
Yeah.
So Sam and I, we grew up together, and we shared a studio at that time. For many years, we shared a studio, and he came up with the idea of pork butts and taters.
Wow.
We were just like riffing, and he thought that, and I thought, that's it, pork butts and taters. And the idea that they only eat them if it's fired from a catapult. It was like so silly. It was like, how ridiculous is that? That was how that happened.
That's awesome, man.
Rear Admiral Floyd's pork butts provide 2 of the 3 major food groups, pork and butt. So, if you're stuck in a rut and you don't like nuts, you'll fill your guts with our pork butts. Tasty, hormone-enriched Rear Admiral Floyd's pork butts from Wesco. Cow and Chicken's mom serves up the finest pork butts only on Cartoon Network.
I have read you say that the show was huge internationally, Italy, Mexico, and so many other places, and that you've heard the show dubbed in Spanish. My question is, when the show is dubbed in Spanish, does Super Cow randomly speak English, or how does the joke land?
That's a good question. I think in Mexico, she spoke with a different accent.
Okay.
I think it was all Spanish, but it was a different accent.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I don't really recall, actually. Yeah.
Okay. How often do you travel internationally to go to various animation cons or Comic Cons and things like that?
Not often. The last I did was went to Chile for a festival, and it was awesome. It was great. And I did a lot of drawings for a lot of fans. And it was really fulfilling for me because people would tell me you're my childhood, and that meant a lot.
Yeah, I can't imagine that getting old. That's such a nice feeling.
It doesn't get old. It was great. And a couple of years before that, I went to Mexico, similar thing. Once to Italy, once to Tenerife in Spain. Yeah.
Wow. Do you personally have a favorite episode of Cow and Chicken?
It fluctuates. I like the one where it was called Lost at Sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when they have their life flashes before their eyes because it was Flem and Earl and
that's
Chicken.
like their Standalone, right? Almost.
Yeah, they think they wake up and they're in the middle of the ocean. They think they're going to die. So they have like our little life, what our life was, and what like then they start confessing things about like they love Cow, and they always dreamed of like Flem and Earl marrying Cow.
Yeah.
Me too. One day, I'm gonna marry Cow. Me too.
That's awesome. Is that episode also one where we see Jolly Roger?
Maybe. I don't think so. Jolly Roger, that was a different one. That was fun. That was D. Baker, who plays Dad, playing Jolly Roger.
God, it's so good. Yeah, I think Jolly Roger was definitely in a boat-related one. I think that's why it was. Yeah,
that might have been the Pirate Lessons.
Pirate Lessons. That's it.
Yeah. That's right. It was like the red guy was going door to door, and he knocked on the door to teach them piano.
Yeah.
He didn't have a piano, and he goes, I'm teaching them to be pirates. And he had 2 wooden legs where his legs were taped up to his butt, and he walked on 2.
Hi, mateys! I have come to teach your children to be pirates!
Wow! Why didn't you say so before?
Yeah! We've always wanted Cow and Chicken to try out the pirate life. That's how I met their mom.
Where do we sign?
My favorite episode was always the Halloween one with Dead Ghost.
Oh, yeah, Dead Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
'Cause it's Halloween! Time to get into your costumes!
Halloween's my favorite holiday, and you guys did some amazing ones. I mean, even my favorite episode of I Am Weasel is I Am Vampire and I Are Ghost.
Yeah, those are fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I Am Vampire was, I think, Adam Burton, who later did Mindy, or what was it? Grim Reaper. Grim.
Oh, Bill and Mandy.
Bill and Mandy. That's it. Billy and Mandy. So Adam worked on my show, and as it started as props, he immediately went into writing because he's a great writer.
Yeah. Wow. The episode Chicken in the Bathtub has just a series of amazing euphemisms for going to the bathroom. I think my favorite of which is I have to make peace with the Germans.
I gotta make peace with the Germans.
Have you incorporated any of those terms into your life?
I don't think so. That was fun coming up with those euphemisms. Almost anything obviously can become a euphemism.
Yeah.
Making peace with the Germans. No one's ever said that ever about going to the bathroom.
No, I'm going to have to start. I'll bring it back into the vernacular. I've heard you say that when the show ended, you were ready to do more. Obviously, Cartoon Network wasn't. And I'm curious as to when that conversation happened, what reason was cited to you that Cow and Chicken was coming to a close?
It was basically they wanted to have other shows for that slot. And, it wasn't anything like we hate your show. Wasn't that it was bad ratings either. It always did well.
Man, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
When Cow and Chicken ended, though, you were still working on I Am Weasel, correct? That went another year?
Yes. Yeah. So it overlaps. So I ended up doing 76 shorts of I Am Weasel.
Right. Okay. I've read that your inspiration for the title of I Am Weasel was I Am Legend.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And that was because you were a big fan of the book.
Of the writer, Richard Matheson.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I did like the book too. It was a great book. Yeah.
Did you go on to become a fan of the movie years later?
The Will Smith one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I liked it. And there was an earlier one too. There was one with Charlton Heston.
Wow, that's right.
Omega Man.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, the Will Smith one was more like the book.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And I've heard that the inspiration for the rivalry between Weasel and Baboon was the song Pop Goes the Weasel. All around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel.
Yeah.
You don't need pants for the victory dance, 'cause Baboon's better than Weasel. Baboon, big star cartoon.
I am Weasel.
What were your inspirations for Weasel's personality?
Against type. Because, weasels have always been portrayed as conniving and, sneaky.
Yeah.
He's a weasel, but he's beloved. He's a hero and he flies jets. And it just so happened when I was able to, it was recommended by, I actually had the voice of James Earl Jones in my mind for him.
Darth Vader, yeah.
Darth Vader, right? And it was Van Partible who created Johnny Bravo who suggested Michael Dorn.
Wow.
Have you ever thought of Michael Dorn? And I go, and I was a big fan of Star Trek or Next Generation, and I watched all the episodes. And him particularly, he's great. And his voice is awesome. I go, that's it. So we brought him in, and he's awesome. He's an amazing actor and a really great guy. And in real life, he's like Weasel. He's very heroic. He's like an ex-football player. And at the time, he also owned a jet. He kept it out in the Van Nuys Airport, and he would fly around in this Korean War era, two-seat jet. You're the coolest. You really are a weasel.
Wow, yeah. The real life parallels are astounding there.
Yeah, and super handsome and heroic and everything. That's Weasel.
Charismatic. Everybody likes him.
Totally
yeah.
Charismatic. Everybody Michael Dorn is amazing. Still is to this day. He's great. He's awesome.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Do you have a favorite episode of I Am Weasel?
I did. I like the one that just came to me now was the one where the cow fishes him out of the television. See that? Yes. He's flopping like a fish.
Yeah.
That actually a lot of these ideas came from my childhood, and that particular one was directly from my childhood, from when I was 4 years old. I used to watch television, and I really did, like a lot of people when they're young, think that the people are actually in that TV.
Yeah.
My TV was a black and white TV, so it was like
classic,
kind of weird. So my idea was if I had a BB gun, I could shoot that set. And there was a particular show that I liked, which was Mickey Mouse Club. The network Felicello, and I was in love with Annette Felicello, and I wanted to get her out of the TV so she could be my friend. And in my mind, I was going to feed her a bunch of pies to make her as big as me. Oh, and that's exactly what I put in that episode of I Am Weasel. But,
I mentioned, of course, that I love the Halloween-themed episodes, but it is also a Christmas tradition for me every year to watch the I Am Weasel Christmas episode.
Yeah. What happens in that one?
Basically, when Baboon's family comes, they're very enamored with Weasel, and Baboon gets jealous. So he, kind of seeks out to basically destroy Christmas because he's just very upset that, like usual, Weasel's getting the attention. It's really sad, but it's a really heartwarming ending.
Yeah. Is that the one where he gets the biggest tree and he crams it into his trailer?
Yes.
It's just sticking out 30 feet on each side.
Yeah. Yep, that's it.
This is great Christmas ever!
So you mentioned earlier that Van Partible was the one that recommended Michael Dorn to you, and that brings me to another question. At the time, what was your relationship like with your peers? So you mentioned Van, obviously there was Gendy and Craig. What was your relationship like then, and what is it like now?
It was always good. I was physically out of the studio for the most part. I was up in Northern California, and I would fly down for 2 days a week for recording and meeting with my team. But while I was there at the studio, I was friendly with them. And then we did publicity together when the shows came out.
Yeah.
Van, I was very close with. And Gendy, we got on really well. And to this day, I still see Van. I worked with Gendy recently, as a year ago, on some projects over at Sony.
Nice.
Yeah. And Craig, who I was friendly with, haven't actually seen him recently. I did actually see him. I didn't get to talk with him at the Annie Awards recently.
Oh, tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were living in You were living in Sacramento, right?
Yes.
What was the decision for you to do that, to stay there to raise your family and just commute to LA a couple days a week as opposed to just moving to LA?
That was a mistake, but I would have. I grew up there. It was a senior family and all that, but it would have been better to be here, and I'm glad to be here now. And but yeah, that was the reason. That being your family. I shared the studio with my cousin. We were close.
Yeah,
and it just seemed like the thing to do at the time. But in hindsight, I would have been better to be down here.
Well, hindsight is 20/20, they say.
Yeah.
I've heard you say a few times that you would definitely be down to reboot Cow and Chicken. You still have stories to tell, and that you would do it in CGI.
Yes.
How come you would rather do it in CGI now?
I've been working in feature for the last 20 years or so, and it's got to the point where I think my designs would work really well. In fact, I've designed characters in CG, and they actually can move in ways that seem like 2D. I just think it would be a cool look. It would just be awesome. It just brings a little bit more realism to an abstract design.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, I could make it look exactly as silly and abstract as it was then. It's just it got that little extra, really.
Have you ever, for fun, just done a little CGI Cow and Chicken and Red Guy little mock-up?
No, because I don't really do that. I mean, I work in CG, but I don't actually do the CG. That's like a particular, computer program, and I just don't do that. But I've seen fan art. I've seen people come up with that, and it looks cool.
That's what's up, man. I feel like it's just such a big possibility. I mean, Powerpuff Girls got rebooted in 2016. It's about to get rebooted again with Craig attached to it at this point. Has there been any talk about it with you at all?
Not from the network, no. From other places, like people wanting to do that, to try to get Cartoon Network interested in doing that. And who knows, it may happen one day.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a situation, of course, where Cartoon Network owns the IP and it's fully their decision, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess at this point it's Warner Brothers,
right?
AT&T, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you're right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they own the IP. Have you ever considered contacting someone there and being like, "Hey, I have an idea. We should do this"?
Well, for the studio that I've been working with for the last couple of years, they were interested in doing that, working with me, and so we did approach them, and they said, "Yeah, let's talk." So it's the studio that I'm with right now. It's in their court right now about that.
Oh, get out of here!
Yeah, it could happen. You never know. It just depends on the interest and the particular story and who wants to fund it.
Okay, that's exciting news, man. All right, well, I'm going to try to generate as much interest on social as I can.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Have you seen Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers?
I haven't. I heard it's good though.
But do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The cow and chicken scene?
No.
Okay, yeah, you gotta watch it, man. Are you familiar with the plot line at all?
No.
Okay, so the relevant part for Cow and Chicken is like, there's a whole devious thing, kind of Who Framed Roger Rabbit style, where they're making bootleg cartoons out of like cartoons that already exist, and so there's a bootleg cow, chicken, red guy like mashup.
No way. Okay, that's cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, you gotta check that out, man. So during your time as a showrunner in the 90s on one of the most iconic cartoons, what were things that you were also watching at the time? Like, who were your peers that you were admiring? What were your kids watching that you were watching with them? Like, what were your favorite shows?
90s? Well, I guess most Ren and Stimpy, because, it was so iconic, and I was really good friends with John. I'm trying. I don't really remember like what particular shows. I didn't have cable actually at that time. It was basically network stuff. I didn't have Nickelodeon, and the only reason I saw Ren and Stimpy's is I'd go to John's house and we'd watch Ren and Stimpy's at his house.
Wow.
I don't know if I ever actually saw them on the air because we didn't have Nickelodeon.
That's so funny, man. Wow. If you could bring back just one thing from the 90s, what would it be?
Well, what was really cool, everything's about timing, but the timing of really wanting creator driven and kind of like letting you go. And that kind of like a feeling of that the network wants you just to be as funny and silly and out there as you want to be. That kind of like would be a nice little environment to have right now. And I don't know if that kind of exists right now. I could be wrong, but...
if you were to guess, what do you feel like is responsible for that shift?
I don't know. Maybe it's just a natural progression of how executives work. I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of cooks. There's a lot of... I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Maybe things are too studied and they overanalyze everything before it even gets made, and that can never possibly happen. I don't know the answer to that.
It's a great point. Do you watch Barry?
I love Barry.
Do you remember that's what you just said happened on the show where her show got canceled off of Netflix because the algorithm said so in 2 seconds?
That was hilarious. That was so funny. And that's based on, these guys are insiders, and that's kind of like exactly what that is. Yeah, executives work that way, and studios work that way, and networks work that way.
Yeah, man. Well, hopefully we can put some power into the voice of the people and get some interest drummed up in a Cow and Chicken reboot, because I really want to see it.
Yeah, and I see Charlie all the time. We're still very close. We live nearby, and
nice.
Charlie, does the voice perfectly, and he's ready to go any moment.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. And like I said, Cow and Chicken definitely holds a very special place in my heart on behalf of me, my entire generation. New Cow and Chicken episodes that was like recess talk big time for us, so it really means a lot to be talking to you about it today. And I really appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Tenn. I really appreciate to hear that too.
For sure, man. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I'm all grown up.
Psych!
Nice.
I'm all grown up. Psych!